Morning, everyone. So it's quite it's nice, but it's also a little bit alarming to follow a speaker as good as the Prime Minister. I had quite a warm up back this morning, but it's very nice to be here anyway. And I was asked to come here. Originally, I turned this down because I said, well, I'm not qualified to talk on immigration. I'm only qualified to talk about my own personal experience. But I was persuaded because the organiser of the conference said, well, that's exactly what we want you to talk about. We want you to talk about why you came to Estonia and what you're doing and why you're doing it. So that's why I'm here. And why are you here is a question that I think every foreigner in Estonia is asked at some point. And it's always interested me as a question, because if you go and live in Paris, then nobody asks you, why are you in Paris? What is there for you? You know, what are you doing here? Same thing in Barcelona. But if you come to live in Tallinn, it's figured that you must be here for some kind of reason. And yeah, the reason for a lot of foreigners is because of love. They come here because of a husband or a wife or a girlfriend or a boyfriend. I was different, and I think possibly that was why people wanted me to speak today, because as I was asked by my friend to join the conference, she said, well, we wanted a foreigner who wasn't married and who hadn't come to Estonia for any romantic reason. And I thought, well, there can only be one. So here I am. Anyway, in case you're wondering about the titles of the slides, I put some Easter eggs in for David Bowie fans. So all of the slide titles are titles of Bowie songs. Anyway, when I was in the UK, I worked as an IT release manager, and it was a very good job. I enjoyed it, and it gave me an opportunity to grow in my career. But I still felt that there was some potential unrealised. There was something else that I could be doing. I didn't know what. And actually it took, yes, a romantic reason, a breakup with my girlfriend, for me to realise it. Because when I finished with her, I decided that I really had to go and do something to get my mind off the situation. So I took a break to the Baltic states, and I went on my own. I went to Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania, and I saw some great things. I saw some really nice sights. But the thing that really pleased me was coming to Tallinn, because I felt that this was a really cool city with a lot happening. There was a mixture of old and new, and there were some very nice people as well. Now, that might surprise you, because Estonians are always telling me how, oh, but Estonians are not nice, they're too direct, they're too rude. But I'm not actually sure about that. I don't think so, because all of the Estonians I've met, yes, they've taken a long time to trust a new person and to get to know a new person, but I think there is a lot of loyalty once they do, and I think that an Estonian friend is a friend for life, as long as you do the right things by them. So that was the kind of person I met, a direct, honest and kind person. And yeah, so I decided to go home and to look for a job in Estonia. So eventually a friend of mine called me up and said, you do realise that Skype are hiring for customer support people. You should try for one of those jobs. And I thought, well, you know, fair enough. It sounds like a really interesting company to work for. Hadn't thought I had a chance at all of working there, but applied and got through the interview. And in June 2011, I joined Skype. And on my first day at work, I went through the training process and I met my colleagues, and I thought, great, this is going to be fantastic. The office looks wonderful. It looks much better now, but at the time it still looked great. And I was really looking forward to starting work. And then we were all sent home early, because on that particular day there was an explosion at a chemical plant just next door to the office. I don't know if this was somehow a precursor to what was to come or something, but it was an intriguing first day anyway. And I would say that the story of Skype, the story of this Estonian startup that became a massive multinational company, arguably it was at its most exciting at the time. It had just been taken over by Microsoft, and people were still wondering what would happen next. And I joined at that time, and it was a really it was a really interesting time to be there, because there were so many changes and there were so many new people coming in, and it was a great place to get to know people and also to get to know Estonia. I went on all kinds of excursions around Estonia with Skype. Skype has an annual summer day where you get to go to a new part of Estonia and see the countryside, and there were also lots of team building trips and things where we could, for example, go to cabins in the snow and learn about each other and how we worked. And these were all ways of getting to know parts of Estonia that were not Tallinn. And I think that this is something every foreigner should do when they come to Estonia, because there are a lot of people who literally only see the old town and then go. And I always think that's a shame. But there were other interests as well, and there were other reasons for me to come to Estonia. And I really wanted to I really wanted to learn about Estonia a lot more. So I'd been blogging in the UK, but I never saw it as a serious thing. I never saw it as anything more than a passion. I thought, well, it's not possible to get any kind of career boost from it, so I may as well just enjoy it. But I started to blog in Estonia as well, and I called it Charm Offensive. It's still running, and I still very much enjoy doing it. But I found this new website called yux.com, which had a great design. And I'd spoken to a friend of mine about my love of writing. I'd spoken about how I wanted to have an outlet for my writing. And so I decided to start this blog as a way of displaying my photos, very simply. They weren't photoshopped or adapted or anything. I just stuck them on there and they looked okay. But as if by accident, people started following this blog, and it became a bit of a snowball effect eventually. Every day I came into work, my colleagues would ask me about my latest post, and it became a real thrill to see the feedback, especially when it was good. And I wrote reviews of cafes in Tallinn and around Estonia, and it became something that people would write to me about, and they would thank me for the review, or they would not thank me if it was a bad review. And as if by accident, I was developing a profile in Estonia. And I think that's the thing I want to get across today, the fact that even if you don't intend to do something, it can still happen in Estonia. Things do happen by accident, but they can be happy accidents. And some very interesting things can happen when you don't intend them to. And it is a small country, but actually that's to people's advantage sometimes, because it's very easy to build up a good profile around here, and it's very easy to get a lot of people talking about you in a very small time. So great things happen accidentally, and unfortunately, Skype let me go in 2013, along with the rest of the customer support team. It was a change of priorities. And I very suddenly had to change my priorities. It was a bit of a shock, but in truth, I'd known that I had a lot of myself still to explore. I knew I had a lot of growing to do. So it was maybe an opportunity that at the time I didn't see. But I would say it felt like my lowest point at the time, but also a turning point. And I spent several days pitying myself, and I then started looking for other things to do. And This had never happened to me before in my career. Like I said, I'd gone from a very stable, very secure IT job in the UK to something that all of a sudden felt very insecure. I went to elsewhere in the Estonian startup community, enjoyed it for a while, but then decided to strike out on my own. And this was something suggested to me by a friend of mine. He said, "Why don't you form a company?" I was frightened by this initially because I know that when you form a company in the UK, it can be a very strenuous process. It can be long and arduous and drawn out. But I formed a company. I called it Charm Communications OU, and I started doing officially what I'd been doing as a favour to people previously, which was selling my English teaching and selling my experience of the English language. I qualified for a Cambridge CELTA, which is the main language teaching qualification. And I also started writing for a living. So I got a job at e04 News as a freelance writer. And I started writing for other publications too. And I was very happy to see that my blog was actually taken seriously as something that people wanted to read, and that there were lots of actually writing opportunities for a native English speaker in Estonia. And I think this was a career I'd never actually considered. I didn't think I was good enough. I didn't think I had enough different styles. But as it turns out, this is a great place to begin a career in journalism. And I also love teaching. I love motivating other people. I teach at the moment at the Estonian Academy of Arts, and it is enormous fun. It's great to see a smile on people's faces when they see what you're trying to do. And it's great to see your experience coming across to people and people improving at their language skills and maybe wanting to use those skills somewhere else. I think that the majority of people who've gone abroad because of improving their language skills have also brought those skills back to Estonia. It's often said that people go away and come back, and I think that is true. And I think certainly if I ever do, then it will be the case for me. So, where are we now and why am I here? Well, I'm here because I want to be, and I'm here because this is a great place full of opportunities. I'm still doing a lot of different things. I'm still doing a lot of writing. It's a great and easy way to. It's a great and easy place to meet talented, interesting people, like for example Johanna Alec, the figure skater who I interviewed a couple of months ago. It's a great place for a foreigner to realise his or her potential, because there are so many different paths on which your life can go. And in Estonia, you can realise all of them in a very short time. And my eyes are open for the next chapter. I'm always interested in what might happen in the future, and hopefully it will be something good. And I hope for you it will be something good too. Thank you very much for having me.